right. We'll go ahead and admit all. Let everybody get in. We'll start the recording. Okay, we're letting everybody in. Still have a couple people joining. Please bear with us while we let everybody in from the waiting room. If you are not part of the board or staff, you please turn off your cameras and your audio. All right, here we go. Stephen Berkson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And the February 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors will come to order. That worked, right? And we'll begin with announcements. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. Please use chat only for raising hands. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. Last call, no announcements this month. Indigo.
Yeah, sorry about that. It took me a minute to get my chat open. The Best Practices Committee is beginning to look for new members, as I know many of our committees are seeking new members in various ways. So if you're interested, you can give us an email, and I don't have the email right in front of my brain right now. I'll get that to our secretary and include it in the minutes. And we'll be meeting next in March, so we don't have a meeting in this month, and we'll be meeting in March. So any likely candidates to help us look at how we can meet in a good way, we would really appreciate your support and your service, and let's have fun together. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. AJ?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks that as we meet tonight and as we meet over the coming days, to keep some perspective. Our world is a little crazy right now. It's a lot crazy right now. And for our Black and brown folks, and even some of our white folks, it's dangerous. And they're giving their time and their lives sometimes to a cause that's greater than we can even imagine. And so I want us to just remind ourselves that as we argue or debate or whatever we do, that keep in perspective what we're talking about in comparison to what people are actually doing. Just a little message for you for tonight.
Thank you. John Alexander.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to make an announcement about the Saturday, February 21st Emerald Ash Borer Site Walk. The Emerald Ash Borer Response Planning Task Force is going to be joining the Vegemanics on a site walk, and we're going to be going over some of the strategies that the task force has come up with, building on the board work session that we had late in the year last year. So I wanted to encourage folks to come to that, and also encourage folks to come to the EAB task force meeting, which is this next one is February 17th. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. LT?
I wanted to amplify what AJ just said, and given the madness around us, how it's more important than ever that we adhere to our values, reflect our principles, and employ transparent and democratic processes in our own self-government.
Thank you. Last call for announcements. Aaron Kenton.
Hi, could we ask John Alexander what time the site walk is on the 21st?
Sure. Can you give us its, does anybody know the time?
It's 2 p.m. and it's on the calendar. And the meeting on the 17th is 6:30 via Zoom.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, last call for announcements. Seeing none, we're going to move on to minutes. Is there any objection to accepting the minutes of the January 5th, 2026 meeting as submitted? Last call. Is there any objection to accepting the minutes of the January 5th, 2026 meeting as submitted? Seeing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. We'll move on to agenda. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda as submitted for tonight's meeting? Last call. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda for tonight's meeting as submitted? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to member comments. Are there any members who wish to speak to something not on old business tonight? If so, please raise your hand in chat. Coyote?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Is my mic?
Yes.
Great. All right. Let's start. My name is Coyote Conley. I'm an elder within this organization. And first of all, from our family to your family, AJ, condolences for the loss of Cooper. Our animals are family, and when we lose them, it's a large hole in our souls. So from our family to yours, our condolences. Next thing I have to talk about, in the immediate aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, our communities rose up in outrage and protest against such a blatant example of ongoing presence of white supremacy within our nation. Before one of the organized community rallies, march and demonstration, a couple of us reached out to the executive director, Wally Baumgars, and asked him if fair members could have permission to get our Oregon Country Fair banner out of storage and with other fair members walk behind the banner during the downtown march and demonstration. Wally was supportive of such demonstration and gave us permission to, with other fair volunteers, carry our banner. Our banner is quite long, somewhat heavy, and we knew we would need 6 or 8 other family members. To our dismay, we were unable to rally members of the fair family to help carry the banner during the rally, demonstration, and march, so that idea failed to materialize. I'm here before you this evening asking for your support to resurrect our banner and have volunteers willing to demonstrate that the Oregon Country Fair stands with justice, freedom, and support for the rights and safety of all humankind. Our Association of Equals was born in 1969 during the height of the anti-war protests. Many, if not all of us who are now elders, shared our voices for world peace and an end to war and violence. To come together in a unified manner is a reflection of our roots, our culture, our commitment to social justice and equity. It's us walking our talk. So I'm asking that you all put your heads together and see if this is something that you would support, and then we could work out logistics and plans so long as we had the approval to move forward. That or that people would see our organization, the Oregon Country Fair, rather than a party, but a vehicle for social change, and that's what we started out as, and just this is a great opportunity to do that again. I don't know how my time is, so I'm going to keep talking.
14 seconds.
14 seconds. Oh my God, where's Chris Berman? Let's see, I don't know what the status of our EDIB work group is. We're on hiatus, haven't heard from anybody what our next step is. So
That's it. Do you have anything, you wrap up, Coyote, or are you good?
yeah, no, well, just anybody respond to me about what I brought up a couple of board meetings after our fair about the lyrics that were sung on main stage at the closing act. I've never heard back. I've never known anything about that. And I wonder if anybody's followed up on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, John Alexander.
Yeah, thank you. And a caveat that I AI'd this comment to tone myself down, and I'm glad I did, given what AJ just said. And also, I was a candidate for the board in the last election, and my comments would be consistent with what I'm going to provide today, no matter what the outcome had been. So I'd like to speak regarding the new business appointment to the seat, and I quote, vacated by George Braddock. In summary, while the current bylaws allow for the board to appoint a director to a vacated seat with a simple majority of 50% plus one, the bylaws committee has recently recommended a formal review of this specific policy. To ensure the board acts as a steward of our membership's trust and maintains the principles of a representative democracy, I recommend that this motion be declined or tabled until a consistent and transparent policy is established. There are some key governance concerns. Inconsistency in voting threshold. Most significant actions require a supermajority. The fact that a new director who holds equal power to elected peers can be seated by a simple majority creates a representative gap and risks the appointment being seen as an act of a political preference rather than the membership's will. There's a lack of established precedent. There is no clear history or standing operating procedure for when a seat should be filled versus left vacant. For example, when Tom Horn resigned shortly after the last election, the seat was not offered to the runner-up who held over 60% of the votes. Reversing that unspoken precedent now for a candidate with less than 50% support creates the appearance of inconsistency. The need for procedural neutrality to maintain beyond reproach the criteria for filling vacancies must be person neutral. The decision of how and when to invoke this power should be decided before and independent of knowing who the beneficiary of the appointment would be. And there's matters of accountability and conduct. The membership expressed concerns regarding the enforcement of the board code of conduct and specifically unresolved discussions regarding accountability for negative campaigning and
30
public
seconds.
violence by sitting board members during the last election cycle remain a membership concern that has gone unaddressed. And moving forward with discretionary appointments before addressing these code of conduct gaps may be perceived as contrary to our democratic process. So in conclusion, I recommend to uphold the integrity of the OCF, that we decline this motion or table it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Heather.
I just want to confirm something. Because nothing was said during agenda review, the new business to appoint the board member to fill the now vacant seat is new business and will not be discussed until next meeting. Is that correct?
That appears to be correct to me. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Move things in agenda review. Any other member input? Last call for member input. Seeing none, we'll move on to staff report. Kirsten?
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this February full moon. It's a beautiful evening, beautiful moon out last night. To get started, administration, we're going to talk about budget dates. The budget committee is now moving into capital improvement projects. We will meet on February 4th and 11th, and the board will vote on capital improvement projects at the Monday, March 3rd budget board meeting. Coordinator budget sheets have been sent to all coordinators as of today. So if you're a coordinator and you have not gotten your budget sheet, please reach out to us because we believe we have sent them all out. Event management, the 2026 Spring Fling is scheduled for Saturday, May 2nd at Wow Hall. Culture Jam is now scheduled for, oops, I didn't change that date. It's the July 28th through August 4th, I believe it is. So I that was updated by Jan's recently. So I'll make sure I get that updated in the next month's report. Teddy Bear Picnic is scheduled for Sunday, August 16th. And staff t-shirts, the date to submit your size requests is February 15th. So if you're a coordinator, you need to get your staff t-shirt size requests in by February 15th. An email was sent with the link to fill out a form. to submit your size requests. Marketing the guidelines, we will print 2,000 of the general guidelines. We'll print 1,000 of the booth guidelines. When we will print 2,500 maps. These maps will be separate as like last year, and they will be available at QM during main camp and at the sticker booth during the event. We will be sending the guidelines to the graphic designer this week, and we hope to have them to the printer on March 1st, but have the digital guidelines on the .NET site by March 1st, when the database is anticipated to open. Craft applications are open now and will close on March 1st. Teen Crew applications will open in March when the database opens for coordinators to request teens on their crew. And teen requests will open on April 1st and run through May 15th. That's for the teens who would like to be placed on crews. Entertainment applications are currently open and will close on February 15th. So if you know an entertainer that you'd love to see at the fair, please encourage them to go to the .org site and complete the application by February 15th. On the contract front, I don't have an update on LTD. I hope to have one for you by the next board meeting. We still have a potential bidder. They have not withdrawn at this juncture, so I cannot provide a factual information about whether LTD will provide service in 2026 or not. The Whitebird Rock Medicine contract is signed. Afton tickets. We are actually going to go live with our ticket sales this Friday. Our competitors are out there really heavily advertising right now, so I have moved that date forward. We were going to launch on 2/16, and now we're going to launch this Friday. So tell everybody you know to get those tickets. We will change to full price tickets on June 16th, 2026. How come I keep missing these dates? Oops. I'm stuck in 2025 for some reason. Cascade Ice is ordered. Verizon and T-Mobile have confirmed that they will install cows in 2026. And as most of you know, AT&T no longer provides a cow for us. We have signed our contract with Life Best Intents for all of our shade needs. We renewed our SUP in January. We renew that every January until we finalize it. And we are prepping all of our Lane County permits for Farside Camping, Zen Acres Camping, Alice's, Marshall's, and DeHindas Camping. We're working on our Lane County Outdoor Assembly permit, our ODOT right-of-way, our Lane County right-of-way, Dance Pavilion, Chela Mela, and we have one last building in Xanadu to permit, that's X30, and we will then officially be done permitting all of the structures that were built in Xanadu. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Hillary?
Thanks. Next month, we'll talk a lot more about a financial overview of kind of where we are in relation to the capital projects, because it's, it's just a good opportunity to talk about the, just the overall finances and planning, as well as the size of the capital project. So stay tuned for that. This month, I'm going to continue the theme of the last couple months, talking about internal controls a little bit, because I've been looking into it a lot. And a lot of our, there's some internal controls that the IRS considers best practices, which in relation to that, I wanted to mention two specific: conflict of interest policies and whistleblower policies. So our conflict of interest policy is contained in several places. It's in the personnel manual and in the bylaws. What the IRS is looking for is that individuals who have power of decision-making don't participate in private inurement, that they aren't making decisions that benefit them personally, because they have the ability to influence things in the fair. We do a good job on that. Fair Family often talks about conflict of interest in a different sense, and not in an IRS sense, but more in a sense of fairness or the dual roles that might influence somebody's decision-making. That is something we haven't addressed. I think it's important to be able to talk about and find that language, but also recognize that is something very, very different from a financial conflict of interest that we are monitored for on a federal level. That those big conflicts of interest have legal implications. Our internal conflict of interest are what we consider sometimes of like, oh, wow, it's a person they went to college with that they made that decision about. So therefore that's a conflict of interest. That's something really different than the actual conflict of interest that we have to legally be careful about. And then as far as whistleblower policies, and recently in looking at it, I was referred to the Fair Cares document, which says that we use the federal Whistleblowers Protection Act. And that has very limited application. And in the FAIR, what we need to worry about with whistleblowers, we need to worry about employees and volunteers. We need to worry about legal issues, and we need to worry about guidelines. And that's just a broad overview. So we're not covering all those bases by saying that the Federal Whistleblower Act is our reference point. And there is a swimmer who is looking into this. And I want us just to start to, be aware of those differences. It's a really different thing if we're talking about legal, or if we're talking about violating guidelines, and if we're talking about a volunteer, or if we're talking about an employee. So we need to pull that piece apart a little bit more, and figure out the lines of authority and what kind of protections are being offered to people, and just how we follow up on it. So expect more of that in the future. And that's my very brief internal control statement. Oh, there you go. Talk to you later.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to the committee and work group reports. Is there any objection to accepting the committee and work group reports as submitted? Last call. Is there any objection to accepting the committee and work group reports as submitted? Seeing none, the committee and work group reports. Jonathan Pincus, do you have an objection to accepting the reports as submitted?
I didn't see a report on the fixed asset committee, and I wonder if we could have some information on it. It was pulled from the .NET site. Thanks.
We could take a moment for that. Sandra, can you explain why that? Because it's not on the list of committee and work group reports. Is there anything to add to that?
Well, I'm not sure that it was pulled from the .NET site. I don't think anything was pulled, but we will be posting all the minutes at the end of this fixed asset season, which should probably be April, or actually probably May, possibly even June, because we do a lot of sensitive things. So we don't post minutes as we go along. We'll post them at the end of our season. Is that right, Kirsten? Do you think it's going to be May or June?
Yeah, fixed asset is a lot like the budget committee. If you get one little piece, you're kind of not seeing the whole progression. So like the budget committee will be submitting all of their minutes once we finish the capital improvement projects. So you'll see them in either March, in the March packet, if we can get the last February minutes done in time for it, or it'll be the April. But the same thing with the fixed assets committee. You can't take one and not understand the progression of the conversation. So we do not drop all our minutes monthly. We drop them after the season, after the deliberations have taken place. Thank you.
And nothing's been pulled, right, Kirsten?
No, we never put something up and then pull it down. We just have not posted any minutes. And we are aware of the minutes that are not up there, but they will be up there within probably, like I said, May, June at the latest. Our last meeting of the season will be April. And then we have to capture those minutes, get them approved, and get them in front of the board as a packet. So just depends. And we always do our meetings at the fourth Monday of the month. So it very well likely could be that it'll be June before the board season, which means they'll all be up from September all the way through April by the June board meeting at the latest. Thank you.
Thank you. So, John, I see you put your hand up again, and you do have time. I will tell you, this is specifically about accepting the reports that have been submitted. So if something about the process, what described is what you want to comment on, that should be saved for member input, either previously in this meeting or for the next meeting. Do you have something specific to objecting the minutes that have been, the work group reports and committee reports that have been submitted as they have been submitted?
Well, the fact that they're not being submitted is a question.
Okay, well that's an issue. This is a regular practice for them. I don't discourage you from raising issues about it, but not here. So not in this particular spot in the meeting. So you're welcome to bring that back to next meeting member input, or write a letter or do other things to bring that up. Okay? All right, is there any objection to adopting the committee and work group reports as submitted? Last call. Seeing none, the committee and work group reports are adopted by unanimous consent. We'll move on to old business. The first item is to appoint Riley Jones and Margot Kassan to the Fixed Assets Committee. Sandra Bauer, Kevin Levy, and AJ Jackson, who'd like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Kevin Levy, who'd like to second?
I'll second
Second
it.
it.
Okay, AJ got that one. So moved by Kevin Levy and seconded by AJ. Is there any member input on this motion?
Can we make some?
Sure. You want to make a statement? I didn't know who's going to do that. Go ahead.
Sure, I can go ahead. Yeah. So, Margot and Riley, so they had submitted, letters of intent and spoken with us last year, kind of late in the season. It was like right around fair time. And so they've kind of been backlogged, so that's our fault. We apologize, but we're here to get them in. So you'll see Margot works in IT in Eugene as a software asset coordinator. She works in negotiating, managing contracts, works with fixed assets project management. So she's a wonderful candidate. As well for Riley, he works at Entech Manufacturing in Lebanon, works mainly on project management, big role in that kind of thing. So really, folks couldn't have showed up at a better time. We're working on a lot with the kitchen project is a big project that we're working and having a big collaboration with everyone on. So we're excited to have them be a part of the crew. Really excited. I don't think they've been on many committees or anything like that. So it's nice to welcome them in. So let me know. Thanks, guys.
And I think they're here tonight.
Yep.
They can speak later.
Yep. So we'll go to member input, and first dibs will go to either of them if they wish to speak. Margot, did you want to speak? You haven't raised a hand, but.
Well, I would just love the opportunity to contribute and support the committee in any way that with whatever help that they might need. And I'm just so appreciative of all of you, and just am really impressed with the meetings that I've attended so far.
Thank you. Ryan, are you here? Would you like to say anything? Riley?
Hi, thank you. I'll mimic what Margot said, excited to get involved and help support the fair and the Fixed Asset Committee in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Pincus.
Yeah, regarding Fixed Assets Committee, well, this is about an appointment, not the commit, not.
That's right. This is about appointment for Riley Jones and Margot Kassan. And that's
I'm sorry. I'll withdraw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Parker.
Hello, welcome. I was just wondering if you could both speak a little bit to your experience with the fair and how long you've been attending the fixed assets meetings.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to that, Margot, or Riley?
Sure. As far as the meetings, I've just been sort of a lurker, a guest at the last 2 meetings, I guess. And I attended this meeting, your board meeting a month ago. So we really haven't done any work, but just trying to see if it's a good fit. I've lived in Eugene off and on since 1988 and have attended the fair in various capacities, mostly as
I'm sorry, Margot. Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
We usually don't do job interviews in this meeting.
That's fine. If you don't
feels
allow
more
it.
like a job interview.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to continue or not.
Well,
Margot, you
let's
don't
not.
have to.
Let's not.
move
I
on.
guess what AJ is saying is he doesn't want back and forth of people asking you questions from the membership. So
That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying
Okay.
we're not doing job interviews about
okay,
committees and in this meeting.
okay. Well, is there any room for them to respond to Lisa Parker that doesn't meet that criteria, AJ? I mean,
I think it's a slippery slope.
Okay.
We haven't done
So,
this before. We've
okay.
had them introduce themselves, but we've never done an on-the-spot job interview sort of questions like this.
That's
in the
fine.
meeting.
Okay. So is there any other member input? Last call for member input. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion? Paxton.
I really appreciate the skills that both these candidates bring to the committee. It's skills I think we need and can use quite well. I am a little upset at the last shutdown of. I would be interested in hearing what people's fair experiences are. It was not very covered well in the letter, and I don't want to push it right now, but I think that questions like how long have you been to the fair and things like that is a very valid question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. LT.
Sorry, the tamale lady was at the door. Okay, so seem like wonderful candidates, and super cool vibes, and my heart is happy. I do not recall in the past having appointees to committees where I didn't either already know what their fair affiliation was or they didn't share it with us, and so. I continue to be curious as just to know, I mean, for what it's worth, I cleaned toilets for 36 years and did a few other things. So I'm just, and again, if the president will permit us to know what your fair affiliation is, I'd be delighted to know, and I'd be surprised if others wouldn't be interested as well.
Thank you. AJ.
Well, this is unfortunate because I think equity here matters in this situation, and precedent matters in this situation. I think both candidates introduced themselves in the way that they saw fit to introduce themselves, and that has been the precedent before. And I think both of these candidates have been on the agenda for a while, and especially board members have had an opportunity to reach out if they wanted more information, or attend a fixed assets committee meeting if they wanted to get to know these folks. I just think it's just not appropriate and we don't have the time in these short meetings here where we have a full agenda to do back and forth, and we haven't done that in the past. And so, sorry.
And I will add, what I was doing there to allow some questions and answers was it was a deviation from normal process. We don't normally do that based on this and some of the other things that we've done. And so I do think, especially in terms of setting time limits, that if you modify this process in some way, allow some dialogue or some questions, answers or something, we need to flesh out some rules around including time restrictions anyway. LT.
Briefly, my recollection of prior committee appointments is a little different. I think we always have known a little bit about the place in the community that folks have showed. So I don't think it's a deviation from precedent. And frankly, we've spent a whole lot more time shutting ourselves down on this question than it would have taken to answer it.
Okay. Any other board discussion? Last call for board discussion. I see it, Indigo. Go ahead. Focus on your mute.
I just want to say thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve on this. We are a volunteer-run organization and a member-run organization, and your willingness to be on a committee is part of what turns the wheels. And I'm just really grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And last call for board discussion. Last call? Okay. I'm going to ask you, AJ, can we do unanimous consent? No one's spoken against this?
it feels like we should probably do a vote.
Okay,
This place.
all right. Okay, so we're going to move to a vote. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. Sandra,
Yes, yes,
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
John Davis,
Yes.
John Steinhardt,
Yes.
John Govsky,
Oh, yes.
I'm just kidding, Trevor Ross,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
LT,
Yes.
Kevin Levy,
Yes.
Indigo.
Yes.
And the motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to the motion for expenditures by board-appointed committees, work groups, and task force must be approved by the board of directors, sponsored by John Steinhardt, Kevin Levy, John Davis, Sandra Bauer, and George Braddock. Who would like to make the motion?
I will.
Okay,
Okay.
so moved, or do you want to read it? It's not that long.
I thought I heard somebody second in the way background there.
Second.
Okay,
Yeah, basically short motion says all expenditures by board appointed committees, work groups, and task forces must be approved by the board of directors. This is just a motion that fills a small hole that we have. We have a couple of board committees that get money and spend it that never actually have to run it by us, and we are actually kind of legally on the hook for it. Also, several years ago, we had a situation where a board appointed committee was allocated a bunch of money and spent it in a way that, at least I would say, seriously violated conflict of interest provisions. And that really shouldn't have happened, that giving money to committees to spend should not be a runaround around the conflict of interest provisions that we have in our bylaws. So this is just a simple motion to close those loopholes.
thank you very much. And we're going to go to member input. John Alexander.
Yeah, I would encourage the board to allow autonomy of the executive director within the budget. The board passes the budget, and if the executive director approves the spending within that budget, that's her purview. And I think that that's an important precedent that most nonprofit organizations run by. I understand that these are board appointed committees, but they're spending within the board approved budget. And therefore, I think this is a little bit of an outreach, and I would encourage you all not to vote for this.
Thank you. Anne.
I agree with what John Alexander said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member input? Last call for member input. Please raise your hand in chat. Again, last call. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? Oh, okay, Jonathan Pincus, go ahead. Try and get in before the last call, please.
I'll withdraw on this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion. Any board discussion? Raise your hand in chat. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the members who just commented, their comments really don't address what this motion is about. This doesn't affect the management team's ability to spend allocated money. This is a motion that is solely about the board getting a chance to review expenditures that are made by board appointed committees, work groups, and task forces, as the motion says.
Thank you. Paxton.
Well, I'm not sure it's necessary. I inquired as to what committees these were, and two of them are our donation committees, which, have a charter to collect and spend money already. I'm perfectly happy with the ED managing or watching over those. I don't think that's a problem. And the other one that was cited was an actual board expenditure. I agree it was not very good at the time. I don't think it was mishandled in the way that John has mentioned it, but I was paying close attention to at that time. In my understanding, it was considerably less expenditure than what has been purported. So, and I had access to the documents at the time. Anyway, I'm not sure I don't like targeting motions at particularly events that are well managed and generally otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Indigo.
It feels to me that if you want to have a process of the committees submitting their budgets, there needs to be a process for that, and this feels a little too broad. I would like to know, like, are they submitting every time they want to spend a few bucks, they have to come to the board, in which case they're in this, new business, old business cycle of getting their budgets approved? Does it mean that they have to have the budget to us by the time that we as board approve our board budget and it's included inside of our board packet? John, I see that you're raising your hand probably to answer this, and none of this is in the motion itself, and I too don't think this is necessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. LT.
Thanks. Well, as to what Paxton was saying about broad general solutions for very specific and unusual instances, I believe the expression is hard cases make bad law. But more generally, as a rule, when we are talking about money in this community, in this organization, we generally hear from our treasurer, who is the person I most rely upon in respect to issues of that category. And we haven't heard from the treasurer. I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if our treasurer would be willing to weigh in one way, another, or simply offer no opinion. But I would be less puzzled and suspicious if we were to hear our treasurer.
Thank you. I'm going to go to John Steinhardt. And Hillary, if you want to comment, please put your hand up.
Yeah. In particular, two of our committees, Jill Hyman and Endowment, and I'm not criticizing them. I think they do great work, but they basically get to spend money and never come in front of the board and let us ask questions like, are there any conflicts of interest between the members of your committee and who you're spending money on? And we are legally liable for that sort of stuff, and I would like the opportunity to review that. This has nothing to do with budgets and stuff. These committees, especially Jill Hyman, gets a lot of money from food vouchers. It's not money that the board expressly gives them, but we are still legally on the hook for their expenditures, and I just would like the chance to make sure it's all cool before it gets spent. Thanks.
LT.
I appreciate that clarification, and based upon that, I oppose this motion.
Okay. Indigo.
Just so I understand properly, so then this is a motion that is for all committees, specifically branching out of the two committees that you just mentioned. Is that what I understand? But then all committees will have to abide by this. You don't have to answer that. It's more of a question.
Okay, thank you. Sandra?
I'll let Hillary go first, and then because she has.
So, okay, go ahead, Hillary.
Sure. Very few committees have spending authority.
Yeah.
The idea of, when I talked about conflict of interest earlier, that concept still remains. Like it's the private inurement issue that I think John is honestly trying to get at. I don't think he's trying to get at, oh, you volunteered for that other nonprofit and now you're getting money to him. I think he is really trying to get at the personal benefit. And, partly that's putting the committee members, if the committee members are in a position of granting money, awarding money, and that money is going to a relative, that is defined closely. I think that's what John is actually trying to get at by putting the board in there as an insulator and to evaluate that. Another way would be to say that, any body that is able to spend money has to, abide by a conflict of interest policy, which we have not written for those people yet. So I think John has, good reasons at heart. He's trying to hold committee members to the same standards that board members are held to. And he's looking at committees because of a couple incidences that drew his attention. So I totally understand why he's proposing this.
Thank you. Sandra.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think that this is good governance, and I think that it's just us doing our due diligence. I think it's important, and there have been some issues in the past, and I think it's just it's a kind of a safety valve. And if there, I don't think that I think it's good process, and I do support it. So I think that having some kind of review, overview responsibilities there is part of our fiduciary responsibilities to the organization to make sure that we make good decisions that are in concert with our mission and values. So yeah, I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Paxton.
I appreciate Hillary's explanation. That helps me understand this a bit, because I was confused, because in general, committees don't have budgets. So it's was confusing to me. I think Hillary's explanation has probably convinced me to vote for it, but I'm not sure it's necessary.
Thank you. John Davis.
I'd just like to say that I support what Sandra said, and that this is a good practice. It's our job as board members to do due diligence on where we spend money. And I think this is a good way that we can pay attention and do a better job. Thank you.
Okay, last call for Board Indigo. Or wait a minute, Teresa.
I'm hoping you can hear me from my car. So I appreciate the thing that's puzzling me is what process we would go through. So I support the idea of our fiduciary oversight greatly. And I do think we need to do something, but I don't know that it's clear how this would take place. And I'm concerned about the new business, old business cycle when they're in their cycles. So I'd like to have that clarified before I could offer support.
Thank you. Indigo.
Yes, as I wanted that same thing before. How is this administered, right? This is more administration for the board, and how are we going to do that? I would like to suggest that the makers of this motion table it for a month and come back with a process included, and I would be very happy to consider it, because I think it is important that we take care of our fiduciary, our money matters, that we take care of those money matters. Tongue-tied there. But I want a process. I don't want yet another motion that the board passes of bureaucracy that gets put in the pile of bureaucracy that the board has passed over all these years that just sits there without any way to back it up. So I would, if maybe a friendly, what is
so
the
you can't, yeah. So are you?
I would like this to be tabled for a month.
Right. And so somebody should make that motion, and usually you need to make that motion and not necessarily do a whole talk first. So let's, but you can come around and raise your hand again. So let's.
So
okay.
I'm hoping they'll just table it on their own. Otherwise.
Okay. So well, go ahead, John.
As the maker of the motion, I'm happy to postpone it for a month. I don't think this is that arduous. I think it's a simple matter of coming to the board and saying, here's how much money we're planning to give to who, and we can ask questions if we want. And it just doesn't seem that difficult, but I can, I'm sure a bunch of us can sit down and collaborate and come up with something to add to the motion, and if you want to send me something, I'd greatly appreciate that. So I'm happy to postpone it for a month. This
Okay,
is
so there's not really a friendly process here. That's sort of been a weird thing that's been done. It's offered to the floor and it belongs to the board. Are you moving to postpone it to next meeting, John?
Sure.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, was that LT? Who seconded? I didn't see who seconded, but okay. So moved by John and seconded by LT. Is there any discussion specifically on postponing this till next meeting by the membership? We're not going to spend a lot of time here. Anything from the membership? Okay, board, is there any discussion on postponing this until next meeting?
Can I say hand? Sorry.
Okay, I got AJ, Kevin, and then Teresa. Specifically about postponing, please.
Yeah, I would just ask that anybody that was wanting this to be postponed, that has questions or a process to move forward, that they please contact John, so that we're not doing the same kind of discussion in next month's meeting.
Thank you. Kevin.
I would just want to say I appreciated the discussion and Hillary's input and everybody's input, and I'm glad that we got to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, let's take a second, dial it in, and then move forward. So I appreciate that process with all of us. Thanks.
Thanks. Teresa.
Yeah, just ditto what Kevin said. Thank you, John.
Okay. So seeing no further discussion on postponement, we're going to do a vote. Sandra.
Yes.
Paxton.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
John Davis.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
John Govsky.
Yes.
Trevor Ross.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
LT.
Yes.
Kevin Levy.
Yes.
Indigo.
Yes.
And so the motion passes unanimously. This item of business is postponed until the March board meeting. Move on to the next item of business. The appointment to board committees, work groups, and task forces are for renewable 3-year terms of 3 years. The terms for appointments predating this motion end at their next 3-year anniversary of their appointment, or 2 years from now if the appointment date is unknown. Sponsored by John Steinhardt, Kevin Levy, John Davis, Sandra Bauer, and George Braddock. Who would like to make the motion? We can go with the so moved.
I'll move. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by John Steinhardt, seconded by John Davis. Who would like to explain the motion before we go to discussion?
I'll take a crack at it. So the purpose of this motion is just to make it a little easier for the board to manage its committees. I want to say up front that, I've gotten a lot of feedback and watched a bunch of committee meeting videos over the last month. And I'm a little bit disappointed because most of these looked like people sitting around a campfire telling ghost stories to see who could scare the other person more about what this motion might do. And it wasn't very well grounded in reality to a large degree. So let's focus on what the motion actually does instead of making all of these phantasmagorical claims about it. One of the side effects that we have of the supermajority provision in our bylaws is it's almost impossible to ever stop something that we start at the country fair. An example I can give recently is, there was a point where, at least in my opinion, the diversity committee became a real liability to our organization, but couldn't get 8 votes to end it. And as an alternative, when we did the EDIB working group and put an expiration time on it, it actually stopped when we needed it to, and we're about to take our next steps there. So all that this motion does is really make it a little bit easier to change committees if we think it needs doing. Just provides a little bit of balance. And, keep in mind that you don't have to be a member of the committee to participate. I'm not on a single committee, but I show up to a fair number of them and I get treated with respect, even if I'm not a voting member. I really don't want to discuss specific committee problems that we've had or having here because I think those fall under personnel issues and we should handle them confidentially. I've heard a lot of people say that they won't volunteer without a lifetime appointment, but there are other reasons why people don't volunteer. One of the ones I've heard recently from a committee is that people aren't volunteering because of one of the existing lifetime appointed committee members. So this is just a management tool for the board. It lets us do these things a little bit more easily. Lifetime appointments are not the norm in nonprofits. In coming up with this, I talked to dozens of people who are on other nonprofits and a nonprofit attorney about this. And only one organization that does lifetime appointments was mentioned to me, and they're not a very functional organization. And no, I'm not going to mention who they are. Some people say, oh, but the fair is different. And it is, but really not that much, because for this sort of stuff, we're held to the same standards as other organizations. For instance, we use, GAAP for our accounting. We don't invent our own thing because we're responsible like everybody else. So, the places where I see the differences between us and other organizations are greater are at the operational level. And this motion is about the board and its committees. It doesn't touch operational committees. I know I've heard we got a letter for the board from one member who thinks this is going to affect the ability to do long-term planning on path planning. But path planning is not a board committee, so this motion doesn't touch it at all. It's an operational committee, and it would be completely unaffected. Likewise, I got a request to postpone this motion from somebody associated with the craft committee, but this doesn't affect the craft committee at all. Yeah, from John. And I'm happy to do that if necessary, but they're not affected by this motion at all. This is just the committees that we appoint and manage ourselves, and it's a tool, in my opinion, to make them a little bit more manageable by us. I think I've said enough. Thanks.
Thanks. I see a couple of board members raise your hand, and we haven't done member input yet. So this was just describing the motion, and then we're going to do member input. So if you guys can hold that, I'd like to not try and have to keep track of the list. Yes?
I think it's to the motion, though. So I think
the meaning of the motion? You are trying to add to the description of the motion? Okay.
To the meaning of the motion. Yeah, I just have a different version to the meaning of this motion than John does. And that meaning to the motion is I wanted to be clear that this motion does not mean that we are firing folks from committees. This motion also is an opportunity for us to give opportunity to new voices as well as honor old voices and people that have been around for a while. I think this is standard procedure, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so John Davis and John Govsky, are you trying to clarify the motion before we have member input, or are you trying to engage in discussion on the motion? Because we're
Sorry, I jumped the gun. Sorry.
Okay.
Me too. I'm interested.
Okay. All right, so let's go to member input now. Is there any member input on this motion? John Alexander.
Yeah, just a friendly suggestion would be to fix the terms to the same terms that the board has, or to calendar years, to reduce the housekeeping on all of that. And if the board is not consistently understanding what the meaning of the motion is, I'd consider that a little bit as you guys move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Pincus has time left still, correct?
Yeah, I believe that Ann Rogers had her hand up on this motion prior to me, but I'll go. I've sent you a letter with my concerns. I'm extremely disappointed to hear a board member be so disrespectful of the members discussing motions and their concerns. I think it's incredibly inappropriate. When you think about this motion, I'd like you to think about our longest standing committee member, our late friend, Dennis Todd, without whose work on committees we might not be operating now. And I think that all the committees deserve a chance to input to the board as to how this may affect their committees. That round has not occurred, and I would encourage you to either defeat this motion or to allow all of the committees to respond before you vote on it. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Sue?
Thank you. Excuse my voice. It really would have been nice for all the committees to have been contacted about this. That's one. Two, I did send an email. I'm surprised I had not realized that craft was now an operational committee. Sorry, I just didn't realize that one. All of the committees that I'm part of have had good turnover in membership over the last few years. That it's been very beneficial. We get new perspective and ideas from new members, and it meshes well with the longstanding members who have the institutional memory and experience. And three, John, I'm really surprised that you're not a member of any committee. It might benefit you to have that experience. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a turn. I'm speaking as myself, not as the facilitator. And I just want to say a few things about the principles here. One is this is not term limits by any stretch of the imagination. And a person who has a term of 3 years can come back and request to continue to serve on a committee and be re-upped by the board. The norm for any of these kinds of things is to have some kind of terms, that committees have terms of service that you follow through. And if you have, I think you have a psychological thing that does impact people that gets unmeasured. And one is people are hesitant to sign on because it's a lifetime commitment, or they have to quit. And people have an emotional thing about not wanting to quit. So it becomes a lifetime commitment that they see. And if they decide that it isn't for them, a more graceful way of leaving than quitting. It also makes it harder for the board to have to, if they want to add someone with special skills, and no one is retiring, it's a little harder to expand on that committee or say, thank you for your service. This is someone who's highly qualified. We need to bring in. You've had 4 terms. It's time to give someone else a term. And part of it is sharing the space for the general membership to participate, as opposed to an individual getting on a committee and then hanging on to that for decades. So I think this is a very good process. And the main concern for it is being able to actually execute it, to track all the committee positions, when the terms of service start, and when those people's terms are, so that you can actually administer this and know who should and shouldn't be coming up for renewal. Thank you. And going on to Aaron Kenton.
Sorry for the delay. I like the idea of this motion. I think it's more of it would be really helpful for the board to have a reason to do kind of like general housekeeping and review of their committees. That's where I see it to be really helpful, is that knowing from my experience, the board can get really fractured and distracted by a lot of things. So why not have a mechanism that allows the board to remind themselves once a year that maybe they should take a look at what's going on with all their committees and maybe just handle it all in one meeting for all the people who are possibly renewable that year. I think it can be as informal as you can possibly make it, because you're not asking people to reapply. It's not a popularity contest. It's more a matter of just getting an idea of what's happening at, how is this committee functioning for the board, and is it working well, and are the people, who are there happy with what they're doing, and are we happy with them is an aspect of it. But I don't believe that that's the primary focus. I think the primary focus is to put it on the board calendar so that we remind ourselves. I mean, those of you who've been on the board for a while know that 3 years goes by pretty darn quick. And we thank you guys so much for all you do.
Thank you, Aaron. Anne.
Yes, I just want to say I have heard board members say they spend so much time on board work. And it's not all board members, it's some of them. So I don't understand why they want to make more work. I think it's really important in continuity, especially in certain aspects of planning, to have people who provide both types, provide a continuity of what happened 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even 15 years ago. And I am a member of 2 committees, Path Planning and Elders. I am also a member of Lump by position because of my expertise in things. And there are a lot of alternatives. And just as there are websites that say you should have term limits on these people, there are websites that also declare nonprofits should recognize the continuity that has to continue in long-term planning situations. And I think this makes long-term planning difficult. And it is something that the board has, if you go back through 20 years of board minutes, you will find that this is a issue that the various boards have grappled with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron still has time left, correct, Kirsten?
Do I still have time, Kirsten?
Yeah.
Yes. So just a comment, maybe it could be considered to remove the word term from the motion, maybe say period, because we're not talking about term limits. We're not talking about losing people's time on the committees. We're not talking about shortening their time on the committees. We're talking about the board focusing on their committees and paying attention to what needs to get done from a board level. The committees are going to do their work, and we appreciate so much what the committees do. So maybe we could is the word term in that motion? I'd have to look at it on the screen. Maybe just change the word. Let's see if we can get the semantics so it's not so scary for people. Thank you.
Okay. Any other member input? Last call for member input. We're going to go to board discussion. Indigo.
A couple things. Something I keep hearing is the way other people do it and standard procedures and these kind of things about other nonprofits. I just want to say we are not like any other nonprofit on the face of this planet. And so just because it's standard operating procedure in one place doesn't mean we have to adopt it within our own organization. I think if we're talking best practices, that this really should have been a motion that went to the best practices committee. And I know that that committee needs some members and it needs some, juice to it. That's true. But that's really the best place for this kind of a motion that affects all committees, that then they could bring something working with those who have this concern to bring forward something else. I think it's a really fine line in our specific organization, not all those other ones. It's a fine line between saying, oh, we're just going to create 3-year terms, and then anybody who wants to reappoint at the end of those 3 years can just say, I want to still be in, right? So then that really negates the argument that, people who are just sitting on the committee for a long, long time not doing anything, right? Because if they then come forward and say, I would like to still be on the committee, it's time to re-up, then if you decide you don't want them on that committee, who becomes the jury and the judge of that individual? And that's a very fine line for this organization to start determining who should and should not be helping as a membership organization on a membership committee for a membership board who are all volunteers. I also am confused who's going to be doing all the housekeeping for this. Is this going to be something where the committees are tracking their own people, and once a year they bring that list of people that are up for reappointment to the board? how is that going to happen? If not, is that a board administration piece? I don't want to administer this personally. I administer for my job. I don't want to administer this kind of thing. But maybe someone else on the board wants to do that. I don't know. And I would really rather be empowering the committees to adopt policies, internal policies, so that members who are stagnant, who are not participating, maybe they're not showing up, maybe there's a number of meetings, a threshold. If you don't show up to 3 meetings or 5 meetings, you're no longer a member. There's ways that we could create policy besides this. And at this point, unless I hear something different, I'm not in support of this. And I'm all for best practices and making sure that committees are, doing what the board appointed them to do and doing it in a good way and a good timing and all of that. But this doesn't feel right to me.
Thank you. John Govsky.
Thanks. I was the one, I had asked John to postpone this. In principle, I support this idea. In terms of voting today on it, I think, while I support this idea in general, I think a change like this is a fairly major change, and I think it just deserves a little more time and discussion. And I know, yes, it was notified, weeks ago, but I do think that we need to have committees talk about this a little more and weigh in. We did talk somewhat at the Craft Committee. The Craft Committee was not in support of this. Well, I could say it was split, but there wasn't really time to really dive into it. And many people, as the member Anne, who spoke a few speakers ago, Anne is confused. And this is not about term limits. This is about renewable terms. This is not about term limits at all. No one here in this whole room, I think, has spoken in support of term limits, and I don't support anything like term limits. But I do think it's a reasonable policy. It is pretty non-standard to do lifetime appointments for committees. I think we could have more deep discussions about this, but quite frankly, I support it, but I don't support voting on it tonight. So whatever that maneuver is to postpone it, but I would like this to be postponed, just to give the community a little more time to discuss it. Because even though I support this, I don't support ramming something through that's a large change before people have had time to really weigh in more. And I don't think that I don't think there's any rush to do this tonight. I think we can wait and have a little more discussion and come back and be a lot more informed about where people are at the next meeting. So I don't know. Procedurally, I support postponing this.
Okay.
I don't know how to.
So a debatable motion doesn't preclude, but we have been making a practice of, if you're going to make a motion, you make a motion, and if it's debatable, then you could say something. So, but not giving long speeches and then making a motion, because it sort of catches everyone off guard about where we're headed. So what I would ask is, raise your hand again in the chat. I'll go through the stack here. And when we come back to you, you could say, I move to postpone this until, and then if and then there's a difference between postpone it indefinitely, which is basically to kill it, or postpone it until. So think about when it should come up then if you want to postpone it. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm gonna continue down the stack now. If anybody else has a motion to make, like a motion to postpone or something, let's lead with it. AJ.
I move that we postpone this until the next meeting to give the membership opportunity to, and the makers of the motion opportunity to do any tweaks to it that may improve its ability to pass.
I second that.
Okay. Next meeting, the March meeting. Moved by AJ and seconded by Sandra. Is there any, let me try and capture the, okay, so we are now specifically discussing postponing this motion. Is there any member input on postponing this motion until next meeting? Please make sure your comments are specific to the pros or cons of postponing this motion. Any member input? Last call. Go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion specific to postponing this? Paxton. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it done. I don't think this is actually our business. I think this should go to committee best practices for reevaluation. That's the place
Point of
to.
order, that's not
Yeah.
speaking to the motion.
Yeah, so I'll hang on, John. Okay, gotcha. So, Paxton, that would be to refer the motion to committee. That's not the motion on the floor. So it would be fine to contend that this should be referred to committee rather than postponed, but that's about the extent of relevant to the motion. Does that make sense to you?
Can I move to send it to committee best practices?
Second.
So the answer would be to amend this motion to
Correct.
refer it to committee instead. Moved by Paxton and seconded by Indigo. We are now discussing whether to send this motion to committee instead. Is there any member input on sending this motion to committee specifically? Any member input? Aaron?
Does this override the motion to postpone?
It would replace the motion to postpone, yes.
Okay, thank you.
John?
If that's me, John.
My hand up.
No, John Pincus, we're in member input on postpone, on referring to committee.
Yes, I think it is important that we have a formal discussion at best practices that's well notified. I'd also encourage the board in the meantime, which means a delay, of course. I'd encourage the board in the meantime to be sure that all committees are apprised of that discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Anne?
First of all, I did not say term limits. I said terms, I think. I might be wrong. But second of all, I support sending it back to best practices with a complete outline of every single committee that this would affect. If this is not going to affect operational committees, it should still go to them, but it should clearly be defined that they are operational and will not have an effect upon them. Thank you. Because that's what I'm taking away, is it does not affect operational committees.
That is correct. Last call for member input. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. LT.
Thanks. I do support sending this to the Best Practices Committee. I think that as I ran on the principles of transparency and respecting and utilizing committees, that would certainly go to respecting and utilizing committees. I look forward to that committee process. What's the word I'm looking for? But I want to make sure that they are communicating with all affected community committees. And I'm particularly interested in actual numbers and facts about turnover and stagnation. And, let's get some data. Let's get something that actually is grounded in reality.
Thank you. AJ. You're muted, AJ.
I'd like to add a friendly amendment that if we do this, that the committee gets back to the board with a motion by the April meeting. And put a time frame on this.
So AJ is moving to add to the refer to committee an expectation to come back to the board with a motion by the April meeting. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by AJ and seconded by John Govsky. We're specifically talking now about requiring the Best Practices Committee to come back to hold on all the hands, okay? Because I got to keep the conversation sorted here. We are specifically talking about whether or not to require, if it is referred to committee, whether or not to require them to come back with a motion by the April board meeting. Is there any member input on that specifically? Last call. Aaron.
I think that's a reasonable requirement so that it doesn't drag on for a long period of time.
Thank you. Heather.
I think putting a time on it is a reasonable requirement, but I want to make sure whoever had that idea thought it through in terms of this whole idea of getting the word out and letting all committees know, and what are the actual machinations going to be, and can it all be done by that time in April?
Thank you. Does John Pincus have time left?
Hold on.
Hold on.
Yes, yeah,
30 seconds.
the information is that the committee will not meet in February, so I would request that you change that to May.
Okay. Any other member input? Okay, I am, with that piece of information, not quite a normal friendly amendment, but do you want to change that date to May, AJ? With the information they're not going to meet in February. You're muted.
Yeah, this makes it difficult because the board is talented enough and has resources enough to do some work like this on its own. We don't need everything that we do to go to committee, and so I think we have negotiated this in this meeting. There's a give and take about it, but like I think
You want to change the date to May as the May
I
date?
do not want to change the
Okay.
date to May.
All right. So it
I think there could
stands.
be work. I think there could be work done. Whether or not the maker of the motion can work with members through email or whatever, but I don't think they need to have a meeting in February in order to get some of the groundwork done. So when they do have their meeting in March, that there's some substance done in that meeting.
Understood. Okay, so the meetings, the current discussion is about whether or not to add an April deadline for the Best Practice Committee to come back with a motion. We are moving into board discussion. I'm going to go ahead and say that AJ just spoke and go with this with the stack that's appearing before me. So Sandra.
Yeah, I don't even support sending it to best practices at this point. I know they're in a lot of disarray and they are badly in need of new members. I don't think they're ready for this. I think this is a pretty straightforward issue, and I think that I agree with AJ that we don't have to run absolutely everything through committees. Some things we can.
Okay. I'm going to ask you though to try and stay on just whether or not to add a deadline. Then we'll go back to whether or not to send it to committee.
Okay. Well,
so this is just about whether or not to add a deadline for a motion.
Okay, I agree with AJ that we should keep it at April.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Steinhardt.
I'll pass.
Okay, LT.
I was prepared to support this motion when the point came up that this places time pressure on the committee, Best Practices Committee, and that in addition to that, there are the logistics of bringing in all of the information that I suggested would perhaps ground the various, if you want to call them ghost stories about people not being able to get on committees because old people are hanging around or whatever that is. I really was hoping for a very thorough, factual predicate for whatever it is we're doing, and hoping that the Best Practices Committee would be given the grace to have the time to get this done. And so while I could support a May deadline, I cannot support an April deadline. And for what it's worth, I will be submitting a letter of interest to join the Best Practices Committee to actually help in this work instead of just saying they can't do it. There's not enough of them, and et cetera. So I will be filing that letter as well.
Indigo, again, for everyone, we're just talking about whether or not to add a deadline to a refer to committee that has not yet been approved. Just whether or not to add a deadline.
I do do agree that we need a deadline. I think having a deadline for this kind of work is essential. I think that making a decision to change from 1 month to another, whether you would have a deadline or not, is a little arbitrary, given that 1 month isn't that much of a difference. And this is an emotion that has some urgency to it, though I see the need to figure it out and get it before us for an official vote. I don't think it's something that even would need to happen officially before this year's fair, quite honestly. So I don't know what the hurry is. I'm feeling a lot of hurry, get it done. And I would rather, like LT, have us have at least till May as the liaison from this committee. We are ready to do the work for the board. Absolutely. We need help, but giving us that grace of time to bring back something good and do some good research and talk to your committees and get the information that you really want so that we all can feel really good about this, not just some. I think that 1 month does not make a huge difference. I won't support it if it's April. I would if it's May as the liaison. Thank you.
Thank you. John Davis.
Hi, thanks for everyone's input. I just really feel that the health of the fair is important and it's our job to protect that. And so we need a deadline in April for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Ross.
I too believe a deadline is necessary. I'm unsure whether in April, May will be a real difference. I know there's not a lot of reason to move this quickly, and I'm glad that we're negotiating through some sort of reasonable, arc of a timeline. But I'm just unsure that going all the way to May would be something that would give us any other results. I think we can get a lot of information in this time. But I'm not going to make it a deal killer. I would like to see this motion stay in some form and continue to move on. I think we do ourselves justice by slowing this down if we need to. I think we're just disagreeing on how much.
Thank you. Paxton.
I would accept a friendly amendment to move it to May. I will vote against it if it's April. I think that's just really too quickly. As the maker of the original motion, that's, I guess, what I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. And again, at the
I'm not sure
outset,
it's necessary at all, to be honest.
okay.
But I think committee best practice is the place to deal with it.
At the outset, I allowed the maker of the motion with some new information to consider changing the motion, but realistically, friendly amendments need to not change the meaning of the motion, and our goal is to have efficient conversations, and I do my best to try and keep everyone from getting confused in order to make changes that are significant in case people have something to say about those changes. Next person is Teresa. We are talking about whether or not to add a deadline of April.
I personally think April would work just fine. I think when you have a deadline, you meet it. I also have no problem with May. And I think to respect the people that would be doing the work, moving it to May would be respecting that. And I think they deserve that respect.
Okay. Someone can make a motion here to amend the amendment. I will do my best to keep it all sorted. To May from April, if you want to discuss that specifically. John Govsky.
Well, I could do that. I originally seconded AJ's motion for April, and then we heard the problem with the timeline there from the committee not meeting. So I'm fine going to May. I don't think there's any, as others have said, there's no rush here. I think some decisions do need to be expedited for financial or logistical reasons. This isn't one of them. So I'm fine taking a little more time because I think it's more important that we have a thorough discussion of this kind of a cultural change. I still support it, but I don't support ramming it through by any means. So if people need more time, committees need more time, not just committee best practice committee, which I understand is only down to a few people, but all the committees need some time to discuss this. And so I think, it may, so if I can, I support May.
Okay.
I think given what I've
So-
heard from everybody, I think we're coalescing around May.
Let's see what AJ has to say and raise your hand again and somebody just says, I move to amend this to change April to May. AJ,
Yeah, I think words matter. And I think I just heard that moving this 1 month later means that somehow that's giving more respect, and that's not ramming something down. And I think those words are not fair to use when it comes to this motion. It was up for tonight, and we are now talking about April and possibly May. But April, having it moved to April is not ramming something down or disrespectful to a committee. And so I want to be careful about the words we're choosing because that puts us at odds over something we're trying to come to a decision on. And I just wanted to bring that up to people.
okay, thank you. Next up is Kevin Levy.
Yeah, thanks everybody for the discussion. I like deadlines. I think that's totally fine. If they feel May works, that's fine. What, maybe I don't know if this is out of order or whatever, but like, as far as the expectations of the mission, so to speak, for the committee, the idea is that they're gonna kind of go through, figure out the nuances of it, and then come back to us for us to decide. They're not gonna be showing up with a motion that we have to vote on, is the idea. I just want to make sure that if they come to us with a motion and we say, oh, this is awesome, but I think we want to do this, this, and this, and tweak it a little bit,
Yeah.
that, right, that's the idea.
Then that's not the topic on the floor at the moment, but yes.
No,
It's
but
any refer to committee, any committee that sends something back to you as a recommendation, so you can
Okay.
tweak it or not, or choose it, yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely jump in some of those meetings and
Okay,
thank you guys.
so the currently, we're only talking about whether or not to add an April deadline for coming back to the board when if this is referred to committee. John Davis.
I move to call the question.
Call the question on April? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So for everybody, just to be super clear, what we're doing is voting immediately on whether or not to end discussion on adding April to this. Okay. If we end discussion, then we vote on the amendment. So this is about ending the April deadline, adding discussion. Sandra.
Yes, I think. Not really
Okay.
sure.
This is about whether we stop debating April deadline.
Okay,
Just
yes,
vote
I'm
on
a
it.
yes. I'm a yes. on
Paxton.
that.
No.
AJ.
Sorry. Yes.
John Davis.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
John Govsky.
So we're voting on whether to close debate, correct?
Close debate on adding an April deadline.
But we're not voting on the April deadline yet.
Correct. That's the
Okay,
next.
I'll vote yes.
Trevor Ross.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes.
LT.
Oh.
What?
No.
No. Kevin Levy.
Yes.
And Indigo.
No.
Okay. I am correct that we still pass with 3 noes. Yes. So the motion passes with Paxton, Lauren, LT, and Indigo voting no. So we are now voting on whether to add the April deadline. Well, we're actually back in, so we're voting on whether or not to add the April deadline. Sandra.
Yes.
Paxton.
No.
AJ.
Yes.
John Davis.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
John Govsky.
So there wasn't an opportunity to offer a motion to go to May between.
No one made the motion. I offered it a couple
I
times.
had my hand up. I wanted to make that motion.
Yeah, well, call the question supersedes that.
I
so-
see. Okay. Well, then I'll vote no on this. Hopefully that we can talk about May if this fails.
Okay.
Procedure.
Trevor.
Point of procedure.
Yeah.
So the question was called on whether or not to include the date. Now you're doing a vote on the actual motion.
No. We're only voting on the date, on whether on
Right,
whether.
but the call we were voting on the call to question, right? The call to question was to end the debate.
End the debate on the question of April deadline only.
Right. On the.
And now we're voting on whether or not to add the April deadline to the motion to refer it to committee.
I'm so confused.
So there is a motion on the table to make this a refer to committee to the best practice committee. And then there was an amendment to that to add an April deadline.
Right.
We are voting on whether or not to add the April deadline to that amendment, to the best practices.
Okay, I apologize for interrupting, but I couldn't move forward without.
That's fine. That's fine. I want it to be clear. There's several, we've stacked several layers here, so I want everyone to be clear. Trevor Ross,
Yes.
Teresa,
No.
LT,
No.
Kevin Levy.
So again, we're voting on the April thing, right?
We're voting on whether or not to add April to the motion on the table.
Okay, so the idea would be like, if we add April, then we would have to amend April out to do May. Is that?
Well,
process,
frankly,
or does it
so
become
I'm
permanent?
hoping that people will not repeat themselves and we can have very short discussions as we go. But once this goes, if this, it's after this motion, someone can amend the motion to refer to committee to make the date May, and we can discuss that. So we can go back to that. It gets another shot at life if somebody makes the motion. What we're trying to avoid is everyone saying, well, I would support this or I would support that, and nobody saying, let's talk about that thing. That's part of this process. So right now, the only question is whether or not to add the April deadline to the refer to committee. If you want it to be May, that's a motion that can be made after this vote.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm a no. Let's talk about May.
Okay, so you want to say no?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
No to adding the April deadline.
May Day discussion, because that's where we're headed, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
Indigo.
No.
Okay, so the motion fails with Paxton, John Govsky, Teresa, LT, Kevin Levy, and Indigo voting no. We are now talking about whether or not to refer this to the best practice committee with no deadline attached to it at all, right? That's where the discussion is.
Zagovsky's cue.
And we were in board discussion on that. So
I modify my motion.
I did not see anyone raise their hand. I couldn't track while I was trying to help make sure everyone's clear. So we're specifically talking about whether or not to change it from postponement to sending it to best practices committee without any deadline attached to it. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, so I am opposed to sending it to best practices committee. I am happy to postpone it. This is not a best practices for committees. This is a best practice for the board, and those are not the same thing. Article 8 of our bylaws says the board can appoint committees and delegate and blah, blah, blah for whatever we want for effective and beneficial operation of the fair. That's what this motion is about. This isn't about telling committees how to work, and I don't really think it's appropriate for committees to be telling the board how it's supposed to work. I think this is our job, and I would rather do it ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. Teresa.
Okay. So first off, I think I'm speaking to the right thing, which is to go to best practices. To clarify, I would be in support, and I need to know if what we're saying is they have to give us a motion or they have to give us feedback, because that part I'm not clear on.
The current version of the motion says to come back with a motion for the board in April.
Okay. I make a motion to put this to May.
Or Yeah, I'm sorry. And my saying April was wrong because of the prior conversation. It was without a deadline. But you're moving to add a May deadline for coming back to the board with a motion?
Yes.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay, I couldn't track who was
It's me.
since John Govsky expressed support way earlier. So if you don't
Okay.
mind, I'll give him the
No, I
second.
don't mind.
Okay,
I
so
don't mind.
moved by Teresa and seconded by John Govsky. I'm going to ask that we try and, we have been discussing deadline. This has already been fleshed out. I'd ask people to be concise and focus just on anything new that might move people one way or another on this discussion. And I'm going to ask for member input first. Is there any member input on a May deadline? Anne?
I support a May deadline. I think that gives all committees an appropriate amount of time to respond as long as they're notified ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe John Pincus has any time left, does he? No, you're out of time, John. We can't really track down to the last 5-10 seconds. Any other member input? Last call. Okay. Board discussion on making it a, changing the refer to committee for a May deadline. LT.
Thank you. There was some objection earlier to some of the language used to object to the fast track or April version. I'd like to think we could all agree on the word kindness. And I think that this is a kinder approach.
Thank you. Indigo.
I guess since I'm going to be bringing this back to the committee as their liaison, I just want to get real clear on the word motion in this motion. If that is in fact what this board is wanting in this motion, to have the committee bring back a motion, or is it really research and information that you are wanting the board to be bringing back? And if it is a motion, that's fine. And then the motion as presented here now is fine. But if it is really more facts and details for the board then to discuss and make a motion, I think that needs to be clarified for the committee's ability to do this work for you. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna offer what I believe is a clarification, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when we say any kind of committee sending a motion to the board, it is a proposal. It is something that the board then, some board member has to make a motion, and if you all change it around some before it gets made. So it's basically a proposal, a draft motion. And I think that comes with any additional information that any committee puts to support the proposal that they offer to the board. That would be my interpretation. So I think that's on the face of this motion. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. Okay, is there anything you want to say to that before I move on to stack?
I would just like our maker, I don't want to go through a
Right.
whole only a minute
Yeah.
hopscotch game again, but I would like that wording to be considered changed to proposal rather than motion for clarity of sake. But I'm not going to make a friendly amendment because I don't want us to go through that again.
Okay.
But Teresa,
John Govsky.
Well, first off, let me just apologize. AJ, I didn't mean to say that you or anybody here was trying to ram something through. I was just speaking more generally. I didn't mean to attach it so specifically. That conceptually, I prefer, instead of ramming something through, even if you have the votes, having a longer deliberation and airing of issues and hearing a lot of viewpoints. And, in a change like this, I think it's reasonable to take more time. I'm less concerned about going to a certain committee, whether they come back with a motion or recommendation or feedback, because I think the main thing for me is just having some more time for all of us to kind of debate this a little more and get some feedback to flow back up to the board. So, I support the May. Anyway, May.
Thank you. Kevin Levy.
I'd like to kind of go back with what Indigo was saying clarity wise. So sorry if I'm making it weird, everybody, but I think maybe it shouldn't be a motion and it should be research. Maybe it should be there's a lot of pressure with
we're
a motion and expecting us all to just go with it. We're all wordsmithing. We're all got our things, and I feel like it's easier to gather some information for us as a board to do the work and make the decision than it is for these folks to try and wordsmith something out along with doing that. And so I don't know if we have to friendly amend that or if that's something that
Well, so
you'd be
so
open to Indigo and the crew, because like I said, I feel like this is something we always do, is make people make these motions and have this huge responsibility. All of a sudden they're the board and then they get to us, we tweak it and then they're hurt.
okay,
and then
I got so
they're hurt.
Kevin.
And so okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
going
we
on.
got you.
Picking up what I'm laying
And
down.
I would accept as a friendly amendment because it doesn't change the meaning of motion, changing it to a proposal or a proposed motion. However, we are only talking right now, and we have very limited time left. We are talking about whether or not to make a May deadline for the committee. That's the only thing on the table. AJ.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. With what you just said, I'll pass.
Okay. Teresa.
Can I call for the question?
Sure. Is there a second?
I call for the question.
Okay, is there a second? John Davis seconds. Call for the question. So this is to end debate on whether or not to add the May deadline. Then we will vote on a May deadline to the motion not yet approved to send it to committee. So, Sandra, ending debate.
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
John Davis,
Yes.
John Steinhardt,
Yes.
John Govsky,
Yes.
Trevor Ross,
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn,
Yes.
Lawrence Taylor.
Yes.
You don't get to use reverb to vote more than once. Kevin Levy,
Awesome. Yes.
Indigo.
Yes.
So the motion passes unanimously. We are now voting on whether or not to add that the committee needs to come back with this motion / proposal / whatever else in May. Sandra,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
John Davis,
Yes.
John Steinhardt,
Yes.
John Govsky,
Yes.
Trevor Ross,
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn,
Yes.
Lawrence Taylor,
Yes.
Kevin Levy,
Yes.
Indigo.
Yes.
Okay, so now we are back to referring to committee. And what I'm going to say is, because we've changed the motion, and hopefully there's not much left to say, I'm going to ask for another round of member input because it's a different motion now. And then we'll go back to board discussion. Is there any member input on referring it to committee with a May deadline? Any member input? Ann, does Ann have time left?
I support this. Thank you. I support the May deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Hand.
Thank you. I wanted to echo what Ann said. Thank you for listening to your volunteers who work on your committees when they asked for the May deadline.
Thank you. Last call. Seeing no more member input, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any more board discussion on sending this to committee? And, ooh, they start flying in. Paxton, go ahead.
I just want to point out that committees don't make motions, they make recommendations. And so what I would expect back from the committee is a recommendation that this is what you do. And so that's the expectation in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask, Kirsten, can you tell me who made the motion and seconded the motion to send it to best practices?
Paxton Hogue and Indigo Ron Love.
Okay, Paxton, would you entertain a friendly amendment to change it from a motion to a motion, a proposed motion or a proposal? You're muted. You're muted.
I think that's more clear. Yes.
Which one do you like? Proposal or proposed motion?
Proposed motion would probably
Proposed
be
motion.
acceptable to this group.
And who was our second again?
I'm the second. I'd accept that.
Okay. So for clarity, we've taken doesn't change the meaning of the motion. We've taken a friendly amendment to change it to proposed motion that they're going to come back with. And now I'm a little, Paxton spoke, right? I'm on Indigo. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm good now. Where I was.
Teresa.
I would just like to say, as I serve on many boards, to have so many people fighting to have a voice and wanting to stay on committees forever is just amazing. And I love being a part of the Oregon Country Fair, and I love everybody's desire to hang on to what they're doing. And I just want us all to take a moment to reflect on how beautiful it is to have people caring so much about what they do.
Thank you
And I
very
support
much.
the motion.
Thank you very much. And we have like 10 minutes left. John Davis.
I really like what Teresa said, but I've got to say I support John Steinhardt in his thought that this is board work and we should do it together. And I'm okay with taking extra time, but I think we should work on this as a board.
Thank you. LT.
Thanks. Well, first of all, assuming that this goes through, I certainly hope that all the board liaisons will be working to get the information that I suggested in respect to the actual facts about committees. In respect to referral to the Best Practices Committee, I would cite Article 7, Section 5, which is the bylaws provision on committees, which is not in Article 8. The first sentence, I think, clarifies the appropriateness of this motion. It reads, the board may appoint committees and delegate such authority to the committees as it deems necessary, proper, or convenient for the effective, lawful, and beneficial operation of the OCF. I would suggest that it is convenient to refer this matter to the Best Practices Committee to act as a sort of clearinghouse and central nerve center for which all the other committees can provide the factual data and historical information, which could clarify the need, the appropriateness, the applicability of the motion that is suggested. And for that reason, I strongly support the committee referral motion.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for unanimous consent to extend till 9:15 if necessary. Is there any objection to extending 9:15 if necessary? Are you about to say?
Taking George's place and objecting.
Okay, well then we have to have a motion and a discussion about whether to extend to 9:15 because we've got 9 minutes left.
So moved. Even.
So move to extend to 9:15. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Teresa?
Indigo.
Or Indigo? Okay, moved by LT and seconded by Indigo to extend till 9:15 if necessary. Is there any discussion on this extension? Please be brief. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Sandra.
I'm a no.
Paxton.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
John Davis.
No.
No. John Steinhardt.
Yes.
John Govsky.
Yes.
Trevor Ross.
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn.
Yes.
LT.
Yes.
Kevin Levy.
Yes.
Indigo.
Yes.
Okay, so we can go up to 9:15 with John Davis and Sandra voting no. Back to the stack here on the motion on the table, which is whether or not to send this to committee with a May deadline to come back with a proposed amendment or a proposed motion. John Steinhardt.
One of the things that I'm a little bit concerned about is what, I hate to sound like Bill Clinton, but what this is here, that we are delegating something, if this passes, to the Best Practices Committee. And I'm not exactly clear what we're delegating to them. And if we're not clear, they're probably not going to be clear either, and we might not get good results.
Understood. I will just offer what you're delegating is sending this proposal that is in the agenda to the committee. So that's what refer to committee would do.
That doesn't really mean anything though.
Well, it's presumed that the substance of what they should be addressing for you is contained in the motion that you're sending to them. So terms, renewable terms would be the thing you're sending to the committee. I think that's pretty clear on its face. AJ.
Yeah, I think it's important. I have mixed feelings about this because I do think this is board work. I agree with what John Davis said completely, but I do also understand committees wanting to have say in decision that the board makes. It's disheartening when I hear things like your volunteers, respecting your volunteers or whatever. I want to remind folks that the board is also volunteer. We are also volunteers. And we spend many hours volunteering, more than most. And so it's not a us and them thing. The membership votes for us to make these decisions and do this work, and we volunteer to do that. So I would love for us to stop the language of that kind of separates us and them, by not acknowledging that the people sitting in front of you right now, all of us are also volunteers, voted on by the membership to make these decisions.
Thank you, AJ. And I will say, I hope it's not out of line, that there's been expression here of this being a board responsibility, and expression of sending this to the best practices committee for their feedback. And I just want to say there's a lot of reasonableness on all sides here. So everyone should be looking at each other and accepting that there's some reasonable space for disagreement here without any heartfelt frustration. LT.
As far as the charge to the committee, and while obviously I won't be able to get officially on the committee right away, I'm certainly intending to lend my hand until such time. I really understand it to be, among other things, making sure that all of the committees are aware of this proposal, and frankly gathering the information that I suggested, because there have been a lot of claims about how committees are functioning or not functioning, how they're taking on new members, etc. I think actual data would be beneficial. And as far as respect, I just don't think we can have too much. And I think that the more responsibility and authority we obtain as individuals and a body, the more incumbent upon us it is to show respect. And I think that it is better for us as a board to show respect than to demand it.
Thank you. Indigo.
Point of order.
Excuse me.
Point of order. We often, Mr. Bergson, we often talk about casting aspersions on each other. I think by having this as a conversation of respect does a disservice to this conversation. And so I would like us not to do that, because that is casting dispersion. The opposite of respect is disrespect.
Okay. So the contention being made here, and I think the thing to do is ask everyone to be sensitive to it, because again, it is a reasonable perspective, is that doing something as being respect implies that those who disagree with it are not providing respect when they feel like they are and are doing the correct thing. So let's all try not to place any others within the group in a down position to elevate our own, intentionally or unintentionally, you know, as we're trying to work our way through the conversation here. Is that fair?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Teresa?
I think you just called on Indigo. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I did. I was wrong. The stack is
Okay.
you and then Indigo.
So I am in favor of getting as much feedback as possible from the committees and sending this to best practices as a point to do that. I'm really hoping that the group can really look at how do we encourage new people to get involved while honoring the years and years of experience and the years and years of work that some people have given, and wanting to find a balance for both of those. And so I'm hoping that what you come back with is really looking at ways to encourage more participation at the committee level, and address some of the other issues while honoring OCF's history.
Thank you. And since there's been a little confusion around this, I'm just going to say the motion to refer to committee takes the words of the motion and sends them to committee to come to process and send back to you in one way or another. And a lot of things that are being said about the hope of what the committee will do are completely within the realm of that action, right? The committee has a lot of latitude then, unless you create a whole bunch of very specific instructions in the motion. So I would encourage you to go to the committee and suggest these things to the committee. And at the same time, what we're talking about in this motion, primarily, without having another long conversation to add a whole bunch of strictures to the motion, is to send the wording of this motion to the committee and asking them to reformulate this proposal, basically. Indigo.
So in my mind, all board committee work is board work, whether we 11 board members are doing that work, or we've delegated that work to the board committee. Any work done by the committee on behalf of the board, whether it's research or anything, my estimation is board work. And so I'm really grateful for all the committees for all the work they do for us, because there's no way that we could do it all. In this idea of respect, I am going to mention it because I respect all of you deeply, each one of you who I agree with and each one of you I disagree with, and any given issue I may agree or disagree. Right now, I think what I'm feeling is that the board is maybe disrespecting the committees a little bit when we are talking about this in sort of the ways we have. And I would love to be, I think part of what I feel is that people get frustrated getting on committees because there's so much contention, often, not always. So giving this time, sending it back to a committee so that all the committees can have an opportunity to participate, even if the outcome of the motion is the same at the end of the day, I think that's best practices for a family that is who we are. And so I'd really like to see this finish. I'd like to finish up for the night. I've been on meetings all night. So I hope that this passes and we can say goodnight.
Well, and hopefully we'll have a couple of, we still have a couple of votes to take after this passes. So John Govsky.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I think we should be a little real here. My understanding is that the Committee Best Practices Committee, and that is their official name, Committee Best Practice Committee, is down to like 2 or 3 people. So, I mean, while is that true? It's true. So, I think just to say we're going to send this to the committee, they're going to go back with a recommendation, whatever you want to call it. That's great. And I have no problem. I think it's fantastic. But I think we have to be real. It's only a couple of people here. So I think what's really important is that all of our committees have time to weigh in on this and trickle some feedback through the liaisons back to the board. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for feedback from everybody, not just this one committee of a couple of people. Bless their souls for being there. And I don't think we certainly should not be disrespectful of our committees. In fact, I do everything. I like to think that we can rely more on our committees than we currently do. Whether that's craft committee or the bylaws committee or whoever, or path planning. I respect the committees greatly, and as a member of the craft committee, I know how this works, and we all do, right? That's where a lot of the real work happens in this organization. That allows us to have board meetings where we don't have to discuss everything under the sun. So I guess I'll just stop there, and I support moving on.
Thank you. Asking for conciseness, John Steinhardt.
Call the question. How's that for concise?
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by John Davis. So moved by John Steinhardt, seconded by John Davis. We're voting on whether to end discussion on the refer to committee amendment. Sandra,
What are we voting on now?
we're voting on whether to end discussion
Yes.
on the amendment to refer
Yes.
to committee.
I'm a yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
John Davis,
Yes.
John Steinhardt,
Yes.
John Govsky,
Yes.
Trevor Ross,
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn,
He's left.
did she leave? Okay.
There she's back. Or no, she left.
She was showing up.
Well, we'll
There
see
she
if
is.
Teresa. you
Yes,
there?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, yes. And that's on the ending debate. Kevin Levy
Yes.
and Indigo.
Yes.
Okay, so unanimously, debate has ended. We are voting on whether to change postponement to refer to committee. Okay? Sandra. Is
Yes.
refer to committee to come back in May.
Yes.
Yes. Paxton.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
John Davis.
No.
No?
No.
John Steinhardt.
No.
John Govsky.
Yes.
Trevor Ross.
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn.
Yes.
Kevin Levy.
Yes.
LT. LT, you're muted. Are you frozen?
I think he's frozen.
LT is frozen. Indigo.
Yes.
Okay. I am going to consider LT an abstention at this time because it doesn't affect the outcome of the motion. So the motion passes with John Davis, John Steinhardt voting no, and LT abstained by reason of freezing up. So now I am going to, is there any objection to skipping voting on it again? Because what we've really done is replace postponement with refer to committee. We would just do the same vote on whether or not to then refer to committee and have debate. Is there any, Lisa says LT was yes, which is fine. Is there any objection to accepting that as the vote on refer to committee? Because we'll just go back to it if not. What I'm saying is, instead of voting it another time, we're agreed that we've just decided to refer it to committee. Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none, so ordered. So the motion is referred to the Best Practices Committee to come back to the board with a proposed motion by the May board meeting. And that concludes old
It's a
business.
proposal, Stephen, not a proposed motion.
He picked proposed motion. It's all the same. Doesn't matter to me. I mean, a proposed motion is a proposal. Then they can make any kind of proposal that if you vote on it. So that concludes old business. The new business is to appoint Felicia Kurtz to the OCF board seat vacated by George Braddock, sponsored by Sandra Bauer, Anthony Jackson, Kevin Levy, John Steinhardt, Teresa Vaughn, John Davis, Trevor Ross, and John Govsky, and to approve the 2026 capital improvement projects, sponsored by AJ, Sandra Bauer, and John Steinhardt. The next board meeting is March 2nd, 2026 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. We're going to skip meeting evaluation if that's okay, and go to the presence piece.
Yeah, I want to make sure, Kirsten, we added something to that next meeting under old business. That should be on news business now. I believe we postponed something
You
until
postponed the expenditures by board committees and work groups and task forces. The second item on the old business got postponed to
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging in there tonight. I just want to reiterate with this organization, as somebody mentioned before, uh, uh, I am grieving right now the loss of a pet, and I just want to reiterate with the membership how important it is to uh, take care of your loved ones and let them know how you feel about them. And to remember that this is supposed to be a good time for everybody involved. We put this thing together and we do all of this work for something to escape from the shitty world, sorry about my language, that's out there right now. And so as you go forth to other committee meetings and other board meetings and all of that stuff, let's not forget that we're doing this to create a safe, fun place for like-minded people who love art, music, and the human beings alike, to have fun. And so let's not lose that in as we go forward. And with that, thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate you. Much love and good night.
Thank you. And just give me a nod, LT, that you want to be voted yes on the refer to committee as opposed to, since you froze up.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
I'm on
That's-
Lisa's backup here,
Yeah.
and I guess I missed meeting evaluation, but another day.
Well, we skipped it because we're out of time. So
Then I didn't miss.
All right. So with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. See y'all.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.